31 years ago today, on October the 25th, 1994, Susan Smith of Union, South Carolina, reported that a carjacker had abducted her two sons, Michael, age 3, and Alex, 14 months. Following a 9-day search, she confessed to allowing her vehicle to roll into John D. Long Lake with both children secured in their car seats. She was subsequently sentenced to life in prison with possibility of parole after 30 years. In memory of Michael and Alex, this fictional story has been written to commemorate the 31st year. Oh, and by the way, still no parole. Midnight sits heavy on Blackbird Lake. Pines stand fixed like elders in prayer. Water wears the sky like a dark coat, quiet as a shut church. Then the air thins, a phone rings that isn't a phone. It's a child's voice rising through the cattails. Find us. Another follows, smaller, ragged at the edge. Make it right. I hear them the way you feel a storm before it breaks. The lake keeps its secrets most days, but not tonight. Folks in Union know when to keep their heads down. After 9, the square empties, the mill hums, the courthouse clock marks the hour like a gavel. Blackbird Lake, out past a kudzu and rusted tin roofs, holds the cold better than any icebox. I'm a grave historian by trade. Cemetery stones speak plain if you read them right. Names, dates, a whole lifetime hammered into granite. Sometimes the deads don't get a stone. Sometimes they get water for a coffin and wind for a shroud. That's when they start calling for help. I had driven out for a different story, a Confederate widow with a secret ledger, but the lake changed my route. The road curved, the trees leaned in, and that thin, high green pulled my eyes toward the boat ramp. It drops like a tongue into the black. Find us, the voice said again. My hands went tight on the wheel. It felt like a church bell rung inside my ribs. They say every bad tale in Union starts sweet. There was a mother with a fresh haircut and a soft voice. She lived in a small place with plastic blinds and a porch light that buzzed. Folks saw her pushing a stroller down South Pinckney, waving quick, keeping to herself. 2 boys with big eyes and bigger smiles. Sunday clothes when the money stretched. Shoes from the thrift store when it didn't. One October night, the mother made a phone call with a tremble in her throat. She said a stranger took her car at a red light near Monarch Hill. Said he drove off with the boys still buckled in the back. Sirens rose, deputies combed the roads, helicopters slapped the sky, news vans bled their cables on the main. But the lake doesn't read headlines. Blackbird sits back at a tree line with no interest in TV or talk. It only knows wait, and what wait does when you give it time. When the sheriff runs out of road, he looks to water. Men stood shoulder to shoulder at Blackbird, flashlights cutting pale tunnels into dark, divers suited up, the boat ramp slickened underfoot. The dog whined at the edge and would not be quieted. I stayed behind the tape with the old men and women who pray out loud. One of them said, Lord, if it be your will, let them little ones be found. Her voice jerked as if the words weighed more than she could carry. I heard the little ring again, higher, closer. It came through the bones of the dock, call with no breath behind it. Then a second voice, the small one, almost a whisper against my ear. Cold, it said. Mama said, hush. My breath froze in my chest, not with the October air, the way truth can bite. The lake knows what we hide. It knows the angle of a tire when a car rolls down a ramp. It knows the fear, sweat, and press of a small shoe against the back of fabric. It knows the silence that follows the choices you can't take back. Union walked with soft feet for 9 days. People cooked casseroles, pastors offered pews, the mother cried on camera. Behind her eyes was a woman clawing at a door no one else could see. Deputies worked straight through. They followed the map of what-ifs. One line ended at Blackbird, another at a dirt pull-off where someone saw taillights vanish. When you've lived here long, you learn to measure lies by the mile. The way a face in Sunday light, and again under parking lot bulbs. A different smile means a different truth. On the 10th day, the lake drew breath. The dog that would not be quiet raised his muzzle and bayed once. The divers moved like shadows underwater. Then the winch groaned. Blackbird gave up what it held. Steel rose slow and dripping. The car broke the surface backward, backlash first. The lake was trying to push it away. 2 child seats, 2 small shapes. What happened after turned every person in Union into a witness, whether they wanted it or not. I won't speak their names. The boys deserve quiet. Let their names be a prayer instead. The whole town leaned on the sound of grief that day. The kind that burns the throat and leaves you empty. The kind that makes a grown man drop to his knees in gasoline gravel, put his forehead to the earth. The mother's story broke. It turned from a stranger's theft to something done with hands she could not deny. A switch flipped. News trucks swarmed. Anger rose and settled like gnats in August. The courthouse doors were heavy that week, but justice moved, slow and exact, like a clock that never loses time. Still, the lake did not rest, because justice on paper is not always justice in the ground. Not when little souls go unmarked, not when the whole county tries to sleep with the sound of buckles clicking over wet fabric. They did not call for headlines. They did not call for hate. The boys wanted to be found. After that, they wanted the scales balanced, not with rage, with clean weight of truth, with a sentence that fit the sin. On a night with a hunter's moon, they came to me out by the ramp, where the water kisses the concrete and leaves a green line. I felt the hair rise at the base of my neck, felt a pull, like a tide under the skin. We're cold, the small one said. We're good boys, the other added. Tell them to make it right. How do you answer a child who asks for judgment? You can tell him what you believe, that God sees, that God weighs the heart, that there's a day when the secrets burn off like fog. You can tell him you'll carry the story until your voice gives out. You'll walk the graveyards and say the truth plain, but you won't let the living forget the cost of their lies. A vigil formed by accident, candle, mason jars, the smell of wax and damp pine needles. Someone read scripture, slow and steady, hands that shed innocent blood. Someone else sang Amazing Grace, out of tune and exactly right. I stood with my back to the pine and let the voices pass over me like water. The boys' call nestled in song. Find us, inside that grace. Make it right, inside that word saved. The wind rose without a cloud to blame. The lake rippled. Along the far shore, the thin fog stood up and began to move across the surface in a flat line. Folks looked at each other, and in the fog, and back at their phones, like maybe the weather app could explain it. But this was not weather, this was witness. The fog reached the boat ramp and climbed, skimming the concrete like lace. The candles flickered, then two small handprints formed in the film of algae into dot boards, not pressed in, lifted out. Clean rectangles where a child's palm would be if he could climb again. The jar singers went quiet, even the cicadas held their breath. Someone said, "Lord," but it came out more like a gasp than a prayer. A woman came forward from the shadow line, not the mother, another woman. She worked nights at the dollar store and kept her hair cut short to fit under a cap. When the lies started, she believed them because it was easier than the sharp edge of truth. Tonight, her face was set hard with a new belief. She told the deputies about a day she remembered different now. Without a look she couldn't shake, a sentence cut short, a pause long enough to build a bridge to the worst. She told them about a certain key and a certain hour, and how the water Blackbird had looked wrong to her for days. She had kept it, thinking she had imagined things. People do that. We shaved down with bad memories, but we hope it's true. The boy's hand touched straight on the dock while she spoke. When she finished, the wind dropped. The fog winked out like a breath blown from a straw. The phone was calm, just as I thought. And it's empty. Pay it now, or pay more later. Do you ever press your ear to a door and listen for a heartbeat on the other side? That's how the lake is if you lie down on the dock and go still. You can hear the timbers creak. You can hear fish flick. If you're made for this work, you can sometimes hear what the dead are trying to finish. I stretched out and let my cheek go cold against the planks. The boys came soft, like they were careful not to wake anyone. "We want to go home," the old one said. "We want a stone," said the young one, with both our names. A stone, not balloons, not flowers that go in 3 days, but granite, the thing that lasts when we don't. A marker to plant the fruit in the dirt, so time can't dig it up and rearrange it. I told them this. I told them we would sleep in it. I told them the stone was kind of a gavel, and the ground would hold the verdict forever. They were quiet a long time. Then the older voice said, "Tell them we forgive." My throat went tight. Forgiveness is a hard door, but a child can sometimes open what grown men can't. Courthouses don't make room for ghosts, they make room for words. Mother faced hers. The judge laid out years like bricks. Some said not enough, some said too much. The sentence is only numbers until the Lord sets a weight on it. And it becomes a scale you can feel. Outside, a line of pines threw long shadows across the lawn. I stood there with the graveyard map in my pocket. The boys didn't speak. They didn't need to. The gavel fell, wood on wood. Sound carried through the open door and down the steps and across the street where people held their breath and decided whether or not to nod or shake their heads. Justice is never neat, but that day it was not absent. Weeks later, I went to a stone cutter off Old Bunkum. He worked out of a cinder block building with a tin roof that popped in the sun. I brought him what I had, 2 dates, too short. The last name that should not have to carry this. I asked him for something plain, something that would face the rising sun. He didn't talk much. He traced the letters backwards in chalk on a raw slab. He showed me a little lamb he could carve out in the top corner if I wanted. I nodded. He nodded back. The saw sang. Stone dust floated like gray snow. I took the slab to the church on the hill with the red doors. The pastor gave me a look that said he understood. Men from the congregation dug where the ground was the softest. Women laid out ham biscuits on a folded table. We set the stone. We prayed a few words. We let the names do the speaking. A wind came up on the hill and turned the pages of the pastor's Bible to Psalm 23. He didn't fight it. He read what opened. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Sometimes Scripture turns its own pages to find you. Union healed like an old scar, tight but tender. People crossed streets to avoid old arguments. Others crossed streets to settle them. Some left town to find a new map. The lake stayed the same. It receives, it holds, it gives up what it must. I kept hearing the boys for a while on the ramp. The ring softened. The small one laughed once, quick and surprised, like a child who finds a marble where he left it. The older one spoke about trees. They look taller from here, he said. I didn't ask where here was. Some answers are not made for this side. Folks ask why I tell stories like this. Ain't it heavy, they say? It is. But weight is a part of the truth. If we only tell the light parts, we lose the shape of the whole. In some stories, if you tell a bride, let the dead rest. On the anniversary, I parked by the dock, cut the lights. The lake was a mirror that refused to show a face. Crickets whittled the dark to size. I waited. No fog, no handprints, just night. Then that old ring came again, not sharp now, just a steady tone like a bell far off. It carried across the water and up into the pines and down the road where the town sleeps in its neat rectangles. It was not find us. It was not make it right. It was something like thank you, but not a word, a feeling without blood in it, light, not heavy. I bowed my head, not to the lake, to the maker of it. "They're yours," I said. "We did what we could. You do the rest." After that, I didn't hear them again. Not at Blackbird, not in my truck, not in the graveyard where stone angels keep watch with blank eyes. Silence could be proof, so can sleep. But sometimes at dusk, driving past the church with the red doors, I see the lamb carved in granite catch a warm line of sun. For a blink, it looks alive. Then the light slides and the lamb turns back to stone, doing its quiet work, marking, holding, saying the name so we don't forget. Justice in this world is a tangled fence. Some boards are split, some posts lean, yet the fence still keeps a shape, and behind it, in the good grass, two boys run together where no water is deep, the buckle is tight, the only ringing is laughter. Shall not judge of all on earth do right. Genesis chapter 18, verse 25. Blackbird Lake keeps quiet now. The dock boards are grayed. The dog howled that night is gone on. You kids throw rocks and count ripples. Every town carries a weight it cannot set down. Ours wears a pair of small shoes tied together and hung on a nail in every heart. If you go there after dark, stand at the ramp and listen. You may hear bullfrogs. You may hear a truck on the highway leaning on a tired gear. You will not hear the boys. They are not lost anymore. Justice found them. Mercy kept them. Walk easy back to your car. Put your hand on the hood to ground yourself. Drive slow past the pines and the old mill and the courthouse clock that never stops. When you pass that church on the hill, say a name or two. The stone will do the rest.